I want to talk a little bit about BC politics because we've had a fascinating update that happened out on the West Shore. For those of you who don't know the dynamics, the riding of Langford-Highlands has been, well, it's been rather complicated for the last little while because for a long time it was one of the most boring to report on ridings anywhere because it was a surefire as to who was going to win, or it was a fait accompli, done deal. I don't know. It's not that it was undemocratic. It's just that John Horgan, NDP leader, ran there. He did enormously well in every election that he contested for many years. He was the premier of British Columbia, and that riding was the closest thing to a sure thing that the BC New Democrats had at the time. Of course, John Horgan would not be premier forever. He ended up leaving that role, as we all know now. And the question about whether or not the riding would stay NDP or perhaps fall to greener pastures was an open question as of 2023.
One of the ridings that has been adjusted is the Cowichan Valley. The new boundary will no longer include my home community of Shawnigan Lake, Mill Bay, and Cobble Hill, or South Cowichan.
What was happening was the Greens eyed that riding and put an impressive amount of time, effort, energy, and resources into running a candidate there. The founder of BC Healthcare Matters, you know her, Camille Curry, ran in the riding for the June by-election in 2023 with plans that were not a secret at that point, that when the ridings were redistricted, Camille Curry would be running in Langford-Highlands, and Sonia Furstenau would be running on the west side of that riding for the Greens. This is the same riding where the Fairy Creek blockade happened. This is the same riding that includes Souk, that includes any number of other rustic rural areas. Wandafooka-Malahat is what it's actually called. Now, the by-election, I don't think, went the way that the Greens hoped. They actually fell to third place, with the Conservatives rocketing up into second place. And from there, we saw a number of subsequent changes. Camille Curry's not running in Langford-Highlands. She's running in Esquimalt-Colwood. Sonia Furstenau's not running in Wandafooka-Malahat. She's running in Victoria-Beacon Hill, next to Grace Laura, against Grace Laura instead. Green candidate for Wandafooka-Malahat, Dave Evans is his name. He lives in the Souk area. And do they have a candidate for Langford-Highlands? Who is the Green candidate for Langford-Highlands? I don't know, actually. I haven't even seen if there's a nomination contest planned there yet. I know, because people live in the riding have told me, that they're actually running targeted ads on social media, trying to recruit people off Facebook to be candidates for them. That's one of the things that we've seen circulating, both on Facebook and Twitter. One of them actually said "your riding," one that was geo-targeted out to the Langford area that I saw a screenshot of. So we still don't know who the Green candidate will be, but we do have an interesting development in terms of the BC Conservative Party in Langford-Highlands. This is the riding Ravi Parmar won, by the way, quite handily, as was predicted. It stayed NDP in terms of John Horgan's legacy. Thrilled to welcome, Mike Harris tweets out 12 hours ago, Elena Lawson to our campaign. Elena Lawson was the United candidate in Langford-Wandafooka, who has now joined the BC Conservative campaign. So the United candidate is now in the BC Conservatives. The uniting of the two parties, or at least from the candidate's point of view, has in fact happened in the riding of Langford-Highlands. He writes, thrilled to welcome Elena Lawson to our campaign, a dedicated advocate for autism and families. Elena joins us to bring her real change and stand up, it says here, to the NDP's broken promises. Together we're stronger. Hashtag Langford-Highlands. And this is very interesting. Now, again, still an NDP favored riding. Ravi Parmar, who, I guess really gets along well with Langford Council now, which, he can conduct his political affairs any way that he wants. But I think people voted for him because they thought that the Greens would be too friendly with Langford Council. So they thought they were voting for somebody who wasn't, going to be pals and talk about carrots and sticks with Keith Yakucha or whatever the heck it was at the bus lane announcement earlier last week. I still think the NDP is obviously favored in that riding, but this is a strong second-place contender that we're seeing right now. And again, I can't really assess the Greens because I have no idea who their candidate is in that riding. But in terms of first and second place, Ravi Parmar and Mike Harris watching in Langford-Highlands as we go forward on this one. Be really interesting to see how it unfolds. Again, interesting days, provincial politics in the newly formed riding of Langford-Highlands. Ravi Parmar, the incumbent MLA, obviously is the favored candidate at this point. The NDP holding the incumbency, as well as announcing a new secondary school and new bus lanes in places that aren't Langford, stuff like that. However, Mike Harris with the BC Conservatives gaining Elena Lawson. Elena Lawson, of course, was the BC United candidate there in the June 2023 by-election. I find that very interesting. Conservatives already were second place, although Parmar had, I think it was almost 30 points on them, 25 points, something along those lines. Maybe it was more than, it was about 30 points actually. So even if we add the United and Conservative votes from 2023 together, they still don't surpass what the NDP got in that riding. What we might see, though, and again, I don't even know if the Greens have a candidate there. I haven't seen anybody. What we might see, though, is a closer race between the NDP and the Conservatives. I think that'll be very interesting, whether or not we see Ravi Parmar hold his vote tally from 2023, which I think was more or less exactly where it should be, given the support that I heard in the riding, or whether or not we will see the Conservatives continue to grow in popularity. We've seen that provincial polling with them continuing to grow in popularity. It'll be interesting to see how the individual riding vote changes in the coming fall election. We will be watching that with great interest. All right. Let's shift.